Welcome back to the channel. Let's fix some tail lights on the Firebird today. Here's our starting point. Notice this driver's side one is cracked. Filter panel is safe for another day, and the passenger side has some deep scratches in it, but we should be able to fix this. To remove, you take off that 10mm and you remove these other 5 wing nuts. To get to that, you remove the carpet and then you should have the tail light out. Don't forget to unclip the 4 bulbs, the backup, the 2 tail lights, and the 194 in the corner, and then you can bring it out over to your bench to work on it. Since that tail light assembly is cracked, I'm actually starting with a different housing, but we have to clean it up. I'm using 1000, 1200, and 2000 grit for my wet sanding, as it's what I have. Then I'll finish with a compound and polish. First step is to take some distilled water and put it in a container. I use a little Simple Green, Dodge Dish soap works as well. Just helps make the paper slippery. Wipe it down with isopropylene alcohol, and now we'll start with 1000. The key here is to even strokes, very light pressure, let the sandpaper do the work. Go both directions, and what we're looking for is a nice clean haze when you're completely done. Remember, this is where you're removing your imperfections. Alright, so after you've done the 1000, you're going to want a nice light haze. Now don't panic, but you're kind of looking for something like this. You're going to see some scratch marks, they're 1000. And you want it to be a decent haze all the way around. Now see if it picks up. See that edge there where it's a little bit smooth? I'm going to go back through and touch that up there. Now if it's a big piece, I would use some painter's tape, like if I'm doing a body panel or something. And I'd be using a sanding block. I wouldn't be going by hand. Now I'm not pushing by hand, but you see I got a little bit there to clean up. A little bit right there. But overall you want a nice even piece. So I'm just going to go over it one more time with that paper here. I'm just using 1000 to start. And it's distilled water and just a little bit of Simple Green. I've used Dawn dish soap as well, but I didn't feel like going back into the house. Just being lazy. The idea is I just want to make the water just a little bit slippery so it doesn't grab. But yeah, let's clean that up. Just going over it a second time here, making sure I get all the corners. And what's very interesting is when you're wet sanding, the picture you see when the part is wet, that's what it's going to look like when you're finally done with your polish. So keep that in mind as a visual guide. Here's that final look once I've touched it a second time. Again, those light scratches will be removed with the compound and polish. Deeming the 1000 enough, now we're going to go through and hit it with the 1200. This is a step to where we're just trying to smooth out those 1000 grit scratches. You're not going to be able to remove much with 1200, and sometimes I go 8 and 12. I just happen to have 1000 here. Notice I'm using the light to guide where I'm at. Now this is that second level. Notice I've got more scratches, but they're finer. It's probably hard to tell, and I'm actually using a bright light to show them. It's kind of an old detailer's tip, but when you're polishing cars. And you can see it's a nice, even, clean haze, but the scratches aren't very deep. So we're going to call this pretty good. It's really smooth to the touch, as you can see here. Now we're going to move on to the 2000 grit, and again, it's the same process. We're just trying to remove those 1200 grits. You can use any sort of sandpaper graduation system as you'd like. If I had 1500, I would have much preferred to go 1000, 12, and 1000, 1500, and 2000. I just didn't have any 1500 grit here. So I had to actually do a little bit more of the 2000. Now this is the 2000 grit when we're all said and done. What you're seeing me in between when it flashes, that's actually isopropylene alcohol. I'm wiping it down before I move on to the compound and polish step. Any decent compound will take out the 2000 grit scratches, and again the white marks are just isopropylene alcohol flash. So now we're going to start with a polish. I don't always necessarily go straight to compound, and I'm actually starting with a hand polish here. Spoiler alert, this doesn't work as well as I was hoping it would. So I was trying to set this video up to where you didn't need any power tools, but I've got a nice orbital buffer, and I'm going to use that here. Decent. You can see I've still got swirls. So we're actually going to go over it with some compound and then come back with the polish, but we're definitely making progress. Stubborn could be my middle name. Again, I'm trying to show that you can do this by hand. And if I wanted to put a lot more elbow grease in, I probably could do this by hand. But ultimately, I decided that we're going to move to a DA, but here I'm actually doing all the compound work with a foam applicator and then wiping it down in between applications and using a microfiber towel as well as a terry towel to wipe it down. Now I had to flip this over because I had forgotten to fix some of the broken posts. So I'm actually using a plastic weld here and I'm just welding all the broken tabs together. I can show that in another video if you want to see it. take a closer look of these plastic welds here. Again, it's a kit I picked up on Amazon, and the idea is you can just refuse the tabs together. These tend to break with time. They're brittle. I mean, this is a 20-year-old car. Pretty stable. I'll be pretty happy with how that's going to work out. Alright, so I finally caved, went and got a pad, and now we're going to actually start using the orbital sander, or the buffer if you will, to finish these taillights out. Now this is going to be a compound layer, and then we'll do a polish layer afterwards. Is it perfect? No. I still got some scratches. Is it better and legal? Yes. Using red where the red lenses are, and then a hyperweight for the reverse, as well as a upgraded flasher to swap out, so that way I don't have any sort of hyper flash situations. You're going to need some 3057s or 3157s, as well as some 194s, I believe. Now you just take the old ones out and put the new ones in. Pro tip, test your lights before you put your tail light housing in. It is easy to switch over and reverse the polarity. Now let's work on the other light. You can see this one has a couple of scratches as well as some hazing. This will easily come out with the proper wet sanding technique here, and let's get started. Just like the last time, start with 1000. Wet sand, even haze, keep it clean. In between rounds I am wiping with isopropylene alcohol, just that way you can see it flash. Now we're moving on to the 1200, and now we're on to the 2000. Wipe it down. Polish it. First compound, then polish. And this is the last polish step, and we're going to actually take a look and see what it looks like. This one turned out really nice. I would have liked to restore the original housing on the driver's side, but that crack I didn't want to deal with. So you can see with proper technique, you can really get it shined up. None of that haze and that big scratch in the middle is completely gone. Before I call the back done, we're going to toss in the corner markers. It's a T15 to get that bolt out, and then again it's a 194 bulb. In the car, to install this flasher, it's pretty easy. You just got to remove the kick panel or the knee panel underneath, a couple of screws and a couple of bolts. Pull those out. Should be 7mm in Phillips head. Don't forget to unplug the trunk adjuster. It's just a quick pull. There's a little tab you can press. Now the flash you want to remove is going to be up in this corner here. Here's a better shot of it. Should be held in with a bracket. That's the original one. And it just kind of clips in by the base. Just grab it and pull it out and unplug it, and then you can plug in your new one here. We're to angle the new one installed, and you can see I've run the wire up to that 10mm nut. Make sure you do that. This is what we look like with just the running lights on. Notice my corners are not lit up. I actually managed to reverse polarity on both of the corner bulbs, so I'll be pulling these back out. Blinking, left side, and then the right side as well. Everything seems to work just fine, minus the fact that I've reversed polarity on the 194 bulbs. So don't forget to do that step. Check it before you put them in. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to click like, subscribe, and share to help me grow this channel. Have a good day.